Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and it's time for the Monday morning meta report. This is for the second week of patch 16.2, which has been out now for a while. A couple tournaments have been run on it, and yeah, good stuff. Overall, the patch rundown, so you can already see our 16.3 changes has gone live. So you already know kind of how we're reacting to this. So I actually expect week 2 Monday morning meta reports to be a little shorter, a little slower, but figured I'd do one anyway, as promised, so that you get used to it. But let's dive in. Usual disclaimers. I'm not going to read these every time. You know these at this point. They're based on data. Anything included doesn't mean we act on it, and data only tells us a little bit. So there we go. Okay, on the champs and traits side, the meta does continue to shift, but only slightly. We're not seeing like any radical shifts, any like crazy new inventions. If anything, sometimes there are even shifts in the wrong direction. For example, Bilgewater shifted even better, right? As people realized it was kind of the S tier comp. It's been learned how to play more people understand how to play it, how to tempo around it, things like that. They understand that Fizz is really, really good, etc. We saw it dominate kind of both tournaments throughout all the regions, doing very well. Not necessarily like S tier because 4 people contesting it kind of brings it down, but it definitely is like the peak comp. So that didn't really change too much. Rise and Ziggs are still the peak if you can get there. Like they're definitely like the highest tier, but at least within like tournaments and high elo, that's been a little harder to do. So they've actually dropped off a little. That's not to say that, Ziggs doesn't need a nerf or anything, but it definitely didn't become quite as Ziggs dominant. Bilge kind of became the more dominant thing as the patch went on. Echo is a comp that actually ended up getting optimized quite a bit, and I think is probably the biggest rise from last week. It's like, yeah, Echo reroll last, a week ago was like pretty playable, and now it's like, no, this is a serious contender. This thing, seeing the transition of it go from a Cho'Gath comp to a Nico and Nidalee comp has been pretty cool to see. There's also been some kind of gross optimizations around the movement with Singed that I don't think are really healthy for the game, but it's still cool to see people cook that up. Demacia is a comp that does really, really well in ladder. Definitely see, a bunch of different versions that can do well, but actually in tournaments kind of underperformed a little bit, which again, to me continues to sort of be like Demacia might be like the line. Things that are weaker than Demacia might need buffed. Things that are stronger might need nerfed, is my personal opinion. But yeah, Demacia has been kind of a healthy vertical, so just my 2 cents. I talked about Fizz, Singed, and Nidalee doing weird things to positioning. We weren't able to address that for 16.3, but it is top of mind. I know the live team is looking into this. Slayers and Shadow Isles have actually been one of the cool things that have actually gotten like optimized and played around, and we're seeing those be real comps, right? The GP3 Belveth 2 comp has been pretty cool. Shadow Isles as well. And Shadow Isles being playable is really cool considering Thresh is actually a little weak. So pretty happy with that. And then we're even seeing some like minor cooking. I've seen some Aphelios comp going around. No idea if that's actually legit or not. My personal experience with Aphelios was that he wasn't very good, but maybe I'm missing something. But it is always nice to see new people cooking new things and trying new things. And so I think it's been one of the awesome things of this set. Finally, I'll just talk about that we're still seeing some champs not as playable as we'd like. Things like Jinx, Draven, Asol, Mel, and Bard. I call these ones out explicitly because like, some of them are getting like reworks and buffs next patch. Others maybe not even as much, but definitely some things that, Jinx especially, I think, we threw a pretty big rework and a buff at her. And, she's definitely like has her play in the early game, but like overall not really something that like takes off. So we'll continue to iterate as the patches go on. And I think you saw next patch is a lot of buffs. So hopefully that helps things. All right, Portable Forge, as promised, I'll continue to report on this. Currently below 4.4 at all stages, which means it's in a healthy spot. It did go up a little bit since the last report. Last report I talked about how like it actually looked a little weak. It's still a little below where I'd like to see it, but at least right now on 2-1, it's like a solid balanced pick. I think it was literally like 4.49 when I checked this morning, which is great. 4.2, it's a little less good. So still could use a little love, but overall, continue to be kind of happy with where artifacts and Portable Forge are, not causing problems this set. Good stuff. All right, on the augment side, overperforming at high elo, we're getting real close. We're getting real close. Golden Egg, which like I said, will probably always be on this list. Jarvan Shyvana duo is getting nerfed next patch. Slice of Life is getting nerfed next patch. Hustler's getting nerfed next patch. Those are good. I do want to call out Bandle Bounty. These ones are a little high, so they're up here in this overperforming. But what I will say is actually problematic here, and I'll call this out, is like the win rate of these augments is actually really unhealthy. I do think we're going to have to do something to address that. Typically, we see a high performing, like risky augment win rate could be as high as like 25%, and we could be okay with it as long as like, you know, it was one of those like first or eighth kind of augments. Golden egg can usually sit in the like 20-21% range if it's doing well. These are higher than that, and so I don't really love that really high win rate. I think that's a problem. So that might be something we have to look at. But other than that, actually, overperforming augments, not really too far off here, which is good. On the bottom 90% of players, I'll call out Silco's Revenge. I think this augment right now is shaped pretty unhealthily. It's actually like pretty high in high elo, but it's not like in the overperformers. But it has a really disgustingly low win rate. The shape of it is it's flat damage, and flat damage is really good early. So this augment is just like one of those augments that like will guarantee you a top 4, but not necessarily win the game. And I don't love that. It's one of those, again, I've put red for explicitly when I like, hey, I would be kind of embarrassed if these stats were released publicly. So I don't love that. Now, again, it is a low elo augment, which is fine, but I think this augment needs some work. Other than that, we see a lot of what we'd expect here, which again, we've seen this through all these morning reports at this point, which is verticals do really well with players who are less experienced. So Jarvan Shyvana duo is good, Demacia Forever, Ruin King, Zahen Augment actually doing well, which is cool to see. I think we're actually pretty close with Zahen. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't see him like winning first place in a lot of 1500 LP lobbies or anything, but like the dude has a place and he can do well, so that's nice to see. For the most part, I see him succeed a little bit more in Demacia than I do in Ionia, but I could be off on that. I also haven't played in a couple days, so my read could be a little off there. Early learning, very good with Sona, especially at low elo. Malicious monetization, Bringer of Ruin. This augment's actually getting nerfed. Golden Egg going long, and expected unexpectedness. So overall, not too bad. On the underperforming side, this is where we've actually seen the shift. I think a lot more augments have actually dropped off as people have like realized they aren't as great. So we're seeing the underperforming augments actually go up a bit here, which isn't great. A lot of the same stuff. Some of these are getting buffed already. Wild Growth, again, the fact that Wild Growth is bad while Yordles are actually really good is not a good sign. Golemify, Chaos Magic, Dumbify, Aura Farming, we know that one's getting buffed. Hard Commit, Double Trouble, the Ambessa Kindred duo augment. Ishtal Expeditionist, which again, Ishtal Expeditionist is always like right where it should be. I don't want to see this augment buffed in any way. Rumble Carry, this one's sad to see. I wish this augment was more playable. Worth the Wait, that one's also getting buffed. Crash Test Dummies, Luxury Subscription, this is another one I wish was a little bit better. Part of this is just the fact that the 5 costs right now, the utility 5 costs like Shyvana, Kindred aren't really great. Living Forge, Luxury Subscription, and Recombobulator. Recombobulator is another one that like is frequently on this list, so that doesn't bother me. At low elo, pretty similar list. World Runes being the other one, although actually I think that's supposed to be off the list, so sorry I didn't cross that out. Recombobulator, Double Trouble, Restart Mission. Restart Mission being on here is always funny. I think that augment's great, but low elo just doesn't like it as much. Aura Farming, Hard Commit, Win Out, and Cooking Pot. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is, real quick before we move on, is I've always said how this will be the augments that are outside that 4.2 to 4.8 range. I do think we're due, though, for a pass of the augments that are sitting in that 4.6 to 4.8 range, and possibly even the 4.2 to 4.4 range, of like sandwiching them. I personally believe that, you know, there are augments that have been sitting at like 4.65, which means like they're not like terrible by any means. But especially when it comes to like a high elo play, and it's like the difference between a 4.6 and a 4.5 can feel really bad. I do think there's some work to do there. So I'm hoping we can get that in the next patch or two personally. But just calling that out, that even though like this list is changing, that doesn't mean we're ignoring like every augment that lands in the 4.2, 4.8 range. We're not like done, perfect. No, I actually think there's some work to be done in there. So calling it out. So yeah, but otherwise, not a lot of crazy changes, mostly just shifts of position as well. Known bugs. These are known bugs that aren't being fixed next patch. Yordle is still messing with shop UI sometimes. We haven't found a cause for that. Void Gauntlet sometimes does less damage than intended. Warpath doesn't interact with ghost fights correctly. Ishtal quests sometimes display the wrong number. That one's visual only, though. As soon as you pick the quest, it gives you the right number. Luden's tooltip is incorrect on a number of targets. So no new bugs here. I crossed off a couple that are getting fixed next patch, and we're in the bug fixes. But yeah, that's kind of it. So again, you've seen the patch rundown. You've seen the Monday morning meta report. Obviously, next week we're going to get a shift. It'll change quite a bit because things will get nerfed and buffed and stuff. It'll be exciting. I know I'm excited to try to get some games in, so yeah. But I'll also be down in LA, so we'll see what I can play. So, all right, cool. That's it. Hopefully you guys have a great week. Enjoy. That's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.